Hi, welcome to the Compliance Weekly for August 9th, 2023. First up is to walk the milestone board. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And looks like last week we ended off on deleting accounts personal project causes error to audit events. So start with this one, add test for GCP login cache update. Nate?
Yeah, so while we were adding the GCP logging destination, Lorenz noticed that we had missed adding some tests to the cache, which is like a separate cache that we have. So I just went and added a couple of tests there, which was quick and easy.
Nice, thanks. Next up, auto events sometimes aren't streamed. Hitesh?
It was observed in testing environments that instance level audit events are not streamed sometimes, but Mark eventually found out that maybe that was an streaming worker issue or sidekick worker issue, but Mark was not able to recreate it later, so he has closed it. So nothing done in that terms.
Okay, thanks. And then I'll speak to this one. Yeah, the adherence report list was merged in and connected to the GraphQL query that Huzaifa had made. I just want to do a quick note. Thanks, Huzaifa, for doing that quick fix on the constant. But yeah, that's up and behind a feature flag.
I also just to add to that, Jay, I also noticed some weird issue when when you go to the compliance center and the adherence tab and you try to move to the compliance frameworks tab, which is the third tab, the selector is still on the second tab, which is the violations tab. So I'm not sure what bug it is. It's just a UI bug. If you can just take a look.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Thanks.
This one, automatic user deactivation isn't logged to audit events. Does anyone know about this one? I will look into it and see if we have.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Samir had added these audit events for the user deactivation a few milestones ago, and it was found that there was this slight bug where I can't quite remember it, but yeah, they created the EMR and fixed this up straight away. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, nice. Okay. Great. Next up, migrate usage of audit changes Nixon to auditor service. Harshmar?
Yeah, basically audit changes is already using auditor service here. It's just a wrapper around it, so I just close the issue. Next one is also with me. Here the project changes class was not generating any duplicate audit events. I verified that locally and closed the issue.
Nice. So, Nate, default compliance framework set at subgroup being applied at top level group.
Yeah, so we had a regression in the front end where basically in a subgroup you were allowed to create and edit compliance frameworks, which caused a few issues because they are automatically applied to top level groups. We just had to remove that functionality. There was just a flag that wasn't being evaluated to a proper Boolean. It was being evaluated as a string. So it was a quick fix, but yeah, something that was causing a little bit of confusion.
Oh, nice. Quick fix. Add audit events for instance streaming headers. Hitesh?
Added audit events for streaming headers for instance level audit event destinations. Now that's done.
Nice, thank you. Follow up add streaming destinations for the top. Nate?
Yeah, this was just closing it. We, as won't do, the way that currently the streams are, the destination, streams are added. We have the HTTP and then the GCP ones, so we're not able to add the GCP ones to the top at the moment. We'll probably look at this again when we add in a third streaming destination type.
Okay, sounds good. QA failure in QA specs features. Anyone know this one? Looks like it was just a failing job that got closed out.
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, that's right. That was opened a while ago. It looked like it might have just been a transient failure. Yeah, hasn't failed in the last month or so.
Okay,
So just closed
great.
it.
Nice. Follow-up from add documentation for available audit event types. Think Nate, was it? Do you remember?
I can talk about this one. So we
Okay.
created the documentation for the list of available audit events. Then even while reviewing that, he suggested to add a couple of changes to explain these columns. So he created that MR, and that's also merged to production now. This is closed.
Okay, nice. Next up, add documentation for event filters for instance destinations. Touch.
So yeah, it was a pending with the new event filters added for instance level destination. The documentation of this one I have added.
Okay, nice. Add event type information for audit events using audit event service and group creation.
Yeah, so there's regarding to that audit operation being sent as the event type for group creation. So we have now changed it to group created. So Mark, I have also mentioned it in some issue that you are using audit operation as the event type for group creation. So please take a note of this because otherwise the test will start to fail.
Yeah, thanks. I'll update the tests.
Cool. Add check for committer approved MR. Huzefa.
Yeah, so this was the second check. So this is like whenever NMR, like if the group settings or the project setting doesn't have this check enabled, in the compliance center, the adherence report, we'll see it as failed. So this is the second check, and the third check for checking if at least 2 approvers are there on every merge request. That's also in the maintainer review right now. So once that is merged, we'll be done with all the 3 checks for the GitLab standard.
Nice, that's awesome. And this one, add instance scope for audit events and documentation. Hitesh.
With the newly added scope, for instance, this will add the documentation for that at appropriate places.
Great. And I think this is the last one. Don't create feature flag update audit events.
Yeah, so this was just merely a verification. I verified that the audit events are not created when the feature flags are not updated. We have a condition there, and we also have an RSpec to validate that. So I just closed the issue, added the comment and closed the issue.
Okay, nice. So great. I think that's it for walking the milestone board. Next up is the planning issue. And yeah, Huzefa, I guess you're first up with the compliance adherence report, which you already kind of updated.
Yeah, so the goal was to implement 2 more checks. I have implemented 2 more checks. The second one is in maintainer review right now. I also have an MR which is in draft for running these checks whenever a new project is created. So once the third check is merged, I can also push that MR for review, which was not planned in this milestone, but yeah, I just took a look at that.
Nice, that's awesome. And then to add on to that, for the UI side, the sidebar MR is created. I did notice something that I need to address. And then I also want to take a look at what you've mentioned with the issue when you switch to the third tab. So I'll take a look at that. But it is, the basic structure is definitely in place, and we should be able to get to that implementing filtering as well. Like that. Yeah. I think Hitesh, you're next for this one. Instance level streaming audit events.
Yeah, so we are waiting for the cleanup feature flag MR to release in the next milestone. Other than that, there were several documentations related to this, which I deployed, and nothing much is happening over here in this milestone.
Cool, thanks. Nate, streamed audit events filtering with UI.
Yeah, so we have released the name field one, so that's been ticked off. The filtering by project is probably a little bit ambitious and might not make it in 16.3. So, but that's yeah, sort of was always an ambitious goal.
Thanks.
The next one is with me, integrating third-party storage systems. So we wanted to complete Snowflake this time, this milestone, but I checked that Snowflake doesn't have a public REST API to integrate with, and the GDK, like the SDK that they have, that's only in Java, and they don't have a Ruby version for it. We also spoke to the people at Snowflake, and they're saying that they are like actively developing the REST API. So once that is public, we'll be integrating it with that. So I was just taking a look at instead of integrating with Snowflake, I started taking a look at the AWS version. So I think, yeah, I'm currently seeing how we can integrate it with that, but it will be like a couple of issues.
Okay, no, thanks, and thanks for looking at the alternative until that's ready. Arsenal with migrate audio events to ClickHouse Cloud.
Yeah, on this, last week I created MR for Query Builder, and that got merged yesterday. So the next step is to create another MR for writing a model specific to ClickHouse, and also start with ClickHouse production readiness review. Nate has also created a MR for ClickHouse production readiness, and yeah, that's the current status.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. So the next, yeah, this is the MVC one that we're working on. So yesterday I also created an MR to remove the feature flag, and that is also merged now. So I'll be just going ahead and closing this epic. So this should be on the back of our minds. Nothing more to discuss from the next weeklies.
Nice, that's awesome. And I'm on the next one. Retried failed external status checks. I did have an MRO. I still have the draft for the worker just dashed away while I had switched to the compliance adherence report, and I plan to hopefully have that update out by tomorrow. Sam was working on the compliance violation export. Sam and I paired last Thursday or Friday, I guess for his time, and we had discussed it, and I think there was some concerns from the maintainer database review, if I remember correctly. So we did a little bit of debugging, and through Database Lab, we were able to reduce it a little bit. And I haven't followed up on that yet, but I believe we got it to a point that's acceptable. Well, I'll follow up with Sam with that on the next pairing. Yeah, HeartSmart with default branch protection dropdown.
Yeah, for this, we have done the backfilling of data, and I've created 2 more MRs to for adding those new fields in the API, which are in review right now. And the next, once those are merged, I can start with the documentation and actually start using those columns. The usage of columns will shift to 16.4 because backfilling was done in this milestone.
Next was Sam with SSL authentication, which looks like it's not started yet, unless Nate, you know any more details on that one?
Yeah, I know Sam had a backend peer programming session with GC and has a fairly solid plan in place for the backend. So hopefully we can get a backend implementation plan in this week and get some issues created out of the back of that. But yeah, we'll wait for Sam to confirm that.
Nice. Hitesh, trust and safety streaming audit events requirements.
So I had started on one of the issues in this, related to user registration from UI. So I faced one issue regarding several details which gets filled up after the onboarding is completed. So I'm thinking of adding a new audit event rather than using the existing one, because that will provide, the existing one is providing incomplete details.
Okay, sounds good. Mark, with increased end-to-end test coverage.
Yeah, my focus at the moment is re-enabling the streaming audit event tests and updating them. And then, yeah, I'll get started on the next priority new test. I was going to ask you, Nate, which one should that be? It was the chain of custody report, but I think that might have changed now. Something more high priority.
Yeah, I feel like we did discuss this, and I've completely forgotten.
I think it was the SAML.
Oh, yeah, the
changes.
SAM, the SAML one with the work that Sam's doing. I think it'd be good to test the password auth and then adding the SAML one in at the moment, because I think auth is something that we definitely want to make sure we don't break.
Yeah, so that'll be next up.
Awesome. And I think Camila, sorry, I can't say, Cam was working on the design. Nate, do you know any progress on this one? The improve, manage, edit compliance frameworks?
I believe this is still in solution validation and getting user feedback.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I think that's it for the planning issue. Nate, Q2 OKRs have been added. I think everyone's had a chance to actually see them. Anything you wanted to discuss with those? Or is it a little too early?
No, I just wanted to call out again that they're in there, and yeah, please go in and add any details you want around, specifics, things around, what will constitute a percentage at each change, that sort of stuff. But yeah, we can go over that in detail.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, and then the last note for today was just the hackathon's coming up on August 10th and 11th, which I believe is the next day for a majority of folks here. I was just wanting to see who is planning to participate and if we wanted to move it out, but it looks like there is a little bit of participation in the issue and in the Slack channel. So we're good to go ahead with it. We can just start, or I can put a little note on the issue. Yeah.
How, I guess a question for myself is, are we planning on organizing into groups or?
Oh yes, sorry, thanks Nate. Yeah, so I wanted to know, it would be pretty nice if to pair with each other if you can. It's going to be definitely hard with different time zones, but I think there's a few ideas on the list. If anything, anyone wants to pair together, it's definitely encouraged, but don't have to. And I know making time zones work is hard, so yeah.
I was thinking like those ideas are pretty vast in my opinion. I mean, it's difficult to complete those in a single day. So like this time, could we just pick an epic which has multiple issues, somewhat related to like what we had last time, creating the YAML files for the missing events. If we have any epics of that kind, we can probably like maybe people in the similar time zone can pair and work on those issues together, just to have a look on how people work, like what their local dev setup is, and maybe we can learn from each other.
Yeah, no, I like that one. But yeah, that was all for today. I will stop the recording.